You have seen it on every cold morning your feeders have been up. A chickadee lands at the perch, and it does not look like the chickadee you know from September. In September, it was sleek and aerodynamic, white and black and sharply defined. This bird, the January version, is round, almost spherical. The clean edges from autumn are gone, replaced by a soft, ovoid shape that barely looks like a bird. It reaches into the feeder, takes a seed, and for one moment before it flies off, it just holds there. A small feathered ball with a beak, eyes half closed, looking to you like a bird that is very, very cold. That look is what fools you. Because what you are reading as discomfort, a bird suffering through a morning that is genuinely hostile to its survival, is not what is happening. The roundness you are watching is not the shape of a bird that is cold. It is the shape of a bird that has decided not to be. The assumption almost everyone carries about that puffed up posture is that it signals cold, that a round bird is an uncomfortable bird, that if you could step into the experience of that chickadee for a moment, you would find something like the feeling of stepping out of a warm car into January air, involuntary, unwelcome, something the bird simply endures until the temperature relents. That assumption is wrong, not partially wrong, completely wrong. In a way that changes what you are looking at every cold morning, what that bird is actually doing to survive the hours between sunset and your feeder, and why the roundness you have been reading as suffering is one of the most precise thermal engineering solutions documented in any animal your size or smaller. Welcome back to Wild Bird Whisper. Subscribe before you leave, because what you are about to understand has been happening at your feeders every winter morning, and you have been reading it exactly backward. Today we are going into the physics behind bird puffing, what it actually accomplishes at the level of air and muscle, what the head tuck and the one-legged stance are solving that feathers alone cannot, and why a structure inside the legs of every bird at your feeder is one of the most quietly remarkable pieces of biological engineering in your yard. Stay until the end, because the last thing we cover happens inside nest boxes and tree cavities in your yard every night while you are asleep. What researchers found about the social dynamics driving that behavior will change how you read the birds at your feeder every morning for the rest of winter. Number 1, what puffing up is actually doing. At the base of every feather on a bird's body is a small band of smooth muscle called the erector plumae. When this muscle contracts, it pulls the feather upright, lifting its base away from the skin. When every erector plume muscle across the body contracts simultaneously, every feather rises at once. The spaces between them expand. Air moves in, and then it stops moving. Dead air. That is the mechanism, not air that happens to be present. Trapped, stationary air that cannot convect, cannot circulate, and cannot carry heat away from the body. Dead air is the most effective non-metallic insulator that exists. The insulating value of any material, measured as R value in building products, is almost entirely a function of how effectively it holds still air in place and prevents convection. Fiberglass insulation, spray foam. Downfill. In every case, the material is scaffolding. The air it immobilizes is the actual barrier. A down jacket does not keep you warm because of the down. It keeps you warm because the down creates thousands of trapped air pockets around your body that your heat warms, and that cannot escape to carry that warmth away. When a bird puffs up, it is not doing something that resembles putting on a jacket. It is building the jacket from the inside out, using muscles distributed across its skin to expand a dead air layer between its feathers and its body until it has constructed a full coverage thermal barrier from equipment it grew and controls entirely. Research measuring heat retention in small songbirds in controlled temperature chambers found that birds in fully puffed posture retain between 30 and 50% more body heat per hour than the same birds in their sleek, unfluffed flight posture at identical temperatures. For an animal that weighs 10 grams, 30 to 50% better heat retention is not a comfort gain. It is survival arithmetic. Number 2, the margin. A black-capped chickadee going into a January night weighs roughly 10 to 12 grams. Approximately 8 to 10% of that weight is stored fat, roughly a gram of fuel, accumulated by working your feeders and foraging every calorie available through the daylight hours. That gram of fat is the entire energy budget the bird carries to maintain a core body temperature near 107 degrees Fahrenheit through a night when the ambient temperature may be 15 degrees or lower. Research on chickadee winter energetics found that on an average winter night in a northern climate, a black-capped chickadee burns through its fat reserve in approximately 15 to 16 hours. On colder nights, that window compresses. The math is not complicated. The bird needs the night to be short enough and its insulation efficient enough that it reaches sunrise with reserves still available. A 30 to 50% improvement in heat retention from puffed plumage directly extends that window. Fat that would otherwise be exhausted at 4 a.m., an hour before usable light, may instead last to 5:30 or 6. For a 10-gram bird on a sub-zero night, that 90-minute extension is not a margin of comfort. It is the margin between reaching your feeder in the morning and not reaching anything. The bird that arrives at your feeder at first light, that looks round and half-lidded and apparently cold, has already cleared the hardest calculation of its day. The puffed posture you see is not the sign that the system is failing, it is the sign that the system is running. Number 3. The heat leaks, what the head tuck is actually solving. Puffed feathers cover most of the body surface. They do not cover everything. A bird has two specific features with no feather insulation that function as heat drains for as long as they are exposed to cold air, and a bird that does not address them loses heat from them continuously, regardless of how well its plumage is performing. The bill is bare skin over bone, no fat layer, no feathers, minimal insulation of any kind. The blood vessels running through it are close to the surface and exposed to ambient temperature. A bill held out in 10-degree air loses heat rapidly and draws warmth from the core to replace what it loses. Research measuring heat loss in small passerines found that the bill accounted for a disproportionately large share of total heat loss relative to its surface area because of the density of vascularization in the tissue. The bill is a small surface with an outsized thermal cost. Tucking the bill into the feathers of the back does not merely block wind, it inserts the bill into the dead air zone the bird has already created. The bill moves from outside the insulation to inside it. The same thermal barrier protecting the body now protects the bill. What looks like a bird drooping into a sleepy posture is a bird sealing the most significant heat leak in its external surface. The legs present the same problem at larger scale. Below the knee, bird legs are scaled skin over tendon and bone, largely unfeathered, exposed. Two legs extended means two uninsulated heat channels running continuously from the external environment into the circulatory system. One leg pulled up into the belly feathers halves that. Research tracking single leg standing in relation to temperature found that birds systematically rotate which leg is exposed and which is tucked, alternating the drain between limbs rather than sustaining maximum loss through both simultaneously. The stance you have been reading as odd or accidental is a calculated reduction in the thermal surface area the bird cannot afford to leave unmanaged. Number 4. The system inside the legs that you cannot see. Here is something happening in the legs of every bird at your cold weather feeder that most backyard birders have never heard of. It requires no visible posture change. It produces no outward sign. And it is one of the primary reasons birds can stand on frozen metal perches without the physiological cost you would expect from maintaining warm blood in contact with a surface near absolute zero. Bird legs face a specific problem. The feet must contact cold surfaces, the ice, snow, frozen branch, while the core must maintain roughly 107 degrees. If warm arterial blood flowed down to the feet at core temperature and returned as cold venous blood, the energy cost of rewarming it at the core would be enormous. On the fat budget a 10-gram chickadee operates in January, that cost would not be sustainable. The solution is a structure called the rete mirabile, a dense network in which arteries carrying warm blood from the core run in close physical contact with veins carrying cold blood back from the foot. Heat transfers directly from the warm artery to the adjacent cold vein before the blood ever reaches the foot. By the time arterial blood arrives at the toes, most of its heat has already been recovered by the returning venous blood. By the time venous blood returns to the core, it has already absorbed most of that heat back. The foot operates near ambient temperature. The core loses almost nothing through the legs in the process. This is countercurrent heat exchange. It is the same engineering principle used in industrial heat recovery systems and in the design of energy-efficient building ventilation. Birds developed it in their circulatory systems before any human engineer drew the first diagram of the concept. The bird standing at your feeder on a January morning is not just relying on feathers. It is running a heat recovery system in its legs, silently and continuously, that you cannot observe and would not know to look for. Number 5. What researchers found inside the winter roost. Every evening from November through February, something happens in the cavities in your yard. The natural tree holes, the nest boxes that housed breeding birds last spring, the gaps behind weathered wood. Small birds enter them before dark and do not leave until usable light returns. Bluebirds using nest boxes communally in winter is a behavior most backyard birders have encountered. The same box that held a single pair in May hold 8 or 10 bluebirds on a January night. What most people who know this have not thought about is what the inside of that box looks like at 3 a.m. and what the dynamics of entering it reveal about the birds you see at your feeder every morning. Research measuring internal temperatures of nest boxes with roosting groups in winter found that cavity temperatures with multiple birds were consistently and significantly higher than ambient outdoor air, not because the boxes were insulated, but because the birds inside were generating and sharing body heat in an enclosed space. A box with 8 roosting birds creates a thermal microenvironment. The bird at the center of the cluster, surrounded on all sides by other bodies, receives radiant heat from every direction and loses it most slowly. The bird at the perimeter, against the wall of the cavity, loses heat to the wood on one side and to the air on the others. In communal roosts of species where dominance hierarchy is established, researchers found that it is consistently the dominant individual, the highest-ranked bird in the local social group, that claims the interior position. The subordinate birds are on the outside, losing heat faster, burning through their reserves at a higher rate through the night. The bird that arrives first at your feeder every cold morning, that displaces others from the best perch, that seems to move through your yard as though it owns it, is very likely the same bird that spent the night at the warmest position in the roost, while others arrange themselves around it. The birds that wait at the edges of your yard before approaching, that feed only when the first bird leaves, may be the birds that were coldest in the cavity last night, running the thinnest margins going into this morning. What you watch at your feeders in winter is not a random assortment of birds coming to eat. It is a hierarchy, the same hierarchy that determines who is warmest when the temperatures are lowest and the night is longest. What you are watching on a cold January morning when a chickadee sits at your feeder, round and still and half-lidded against the light, is a bird that has already run the hardest part of its day. Feather muscles contracted through the night to build and hold a dead air barrier around its body. Bill tucked to seal the heat drain that feathers cannot reach. One leg alternated through the cold, one pulled into warmth. A counter-current exchange network in its legs recovering heat silently from every breath of cold the feet were exposed to. And before any of that, the decision of where to sleep, in which position, inside which cavity, determined by a social order the bird did not choose. The roundness you see is not the shape of a bird enduring the cold. It is the output of a system that has been running since before sunset. Not a bird that is cold. A bird that has decided, through muscle and physics and circulatory engineering, not to be. Tell me in the comments, do you have birds using nest boxes or natural cavities in your yard in winter? Which species? And have you noticed whether the same bird always seems to arrive at your feeder first? I read everyone. I'll see you in the next.